So the most fundamental understanding of the four directions is that you have enough situational awareness of who you are in the world and in life to know where the sun comes from and where the sun goes every day. And if you face the rising sun, all the yogis that don't know their four directions doing sun salutations and know one direction, east, maybe east. They just do their sun salutations. They do it anyway, which way, because they don't really know which is east. And that's the whole point. And that if you face east, the rising sun, and you stick your left hand out, where are you pointing? And if you stick your right hand out, where are you pointing? South. And who's behind you? West. And if you flip around and face the left and stick your left hand out, which way is your left hand pointing? Do you understand? So the four directions, which is the compass that drives all metabolic process in the world, because compass is a reference to polarity, magnetic fields. A compass is a magnetized needle which operates by ionic exchange to orient with the polarity of the planet, which is the same orientation of every cell in your body. As a Native American elder, even if I wasn't, the first thing that we learn, one of the first things that we learn, long before we learn it actually, there's no lesson, is that we're taught where the sun comes from and where it goes. And we're taught what is the left hand of the sun and what is the right hand of the sun. And that's the first cross. And that's why Native Americans accepted the Christians and Jesus when the first missionaries showed up in Native American lands, because they already knew the cross. They knew the earthly cross based on the rising sun, setting sun, and the east and west horizons, and the precession of the sun in the wintertime, and the succession of the sun in the springtime. They already knew that. They knew the cross, and they knew, because there was no light pollution, when you looked up in the sky, you could see the cross in the sky, which is called the Milky Way, or the Southern Cross. Even today in parts of Montana and Wyoming and Utah and other places like on a good day in the Himalayas or whatever, in high mountain ranges and areas, at night where there's no pollution, you just look up and you can see that there's a cross in the sky and that there's a North Pole. So on the earth, we use the sun as our guide, and that's why everything's about praising the sun, recognizing the sun, bowing to the sun, because that's our earthly orientation, is relative to the sun, but spiritual orientation is relative to the north. And that's why Native Americans talk about the healing north, or the powers of the north, because that represents Great Spirit. And our orientation to the cross in the sky is not an east-west orientation, it's an up-down, north-south orientation. That gives us 6 dimensions. So we have north, south, east, west, Ate and Ina, Father Sky and Mother Earth, which is different from sun and sunset. Do you understand? So now, in our healing method, we look for those polarities in the body, and we can find them. So the easiest way for me to get into that space with you is to put pressure, to bring pressure, energy, attention, consciousness, pressure, breath, and pressure to you. Okay? So I want to do a little bit of work here on the table. The table work that we do is exactly the same as the mat work that we do, with the following exceptions. It's easier. That's one exception. It's easier to do what you learned on the mat on the table. Okay, that's number one, with a couple of provisos, right? That's number one. All right, number two, why it's easier or better to work on the table than the mat, and why we work on tables and mats. And we're going to do a lot of that before you get out of here. Trust me on this. Okay, is because you can use gravity with greater efficiency. See, anything I can use gravity to do, to push or pull or move, I don't have to be strong to do it. In other words, I don't need muscular strength to do it. So that's something that comes into play for gravity, okay? Another thing is, of course, just the table's comfortable. A lot of people are not comfortable on the mat. Like, for example, I had a client who was 82 years old, elderly woman who was 300 pounds, diabetic with hypertension, and getting her down and off the mat was a chore. I had to be really, really careful. I almost injured myself several times just trying to help her up and off the mat. And after about one time of wrestling with Grandma, oh my God, I wish that had been videoed. It would have been so cute. After that one time wrestling with Grandma, and Grandma being such a good sport about me trying to help her get off the floor, because she never got on the floor ever in her normal life, right? She even had a lift to help her get out of bed. She had a lift, like she had a lazy boy chair that she pushed a button on the chair and it would stand up. So she gets out of the chair, she's on her feet. And when she wants to go sit down and watch TV, she hits the button, the chair stands up, she backs into it and hits the button, and then it sits her down. Right? So the floor, the mat, was not her friend. Even though it would have been great for her. Right? In Thailand, I would have had 2 or 3 helpers. So in Thailand clinic, I never would have been working with a patient like her by myself. I would have had 2 or 3 helpers, whether they're paid assistants, volunteers, or students, right? So that's why in traditional Thai clinics, there's never less than 8 or 10 people who are doing the work. Because if we need to have 3 sets of hands or 4 sets of hands, I just snap my fingers and there's 2 or 3 other people helping me. And 3 people or 4 people could get her up and down easy. Okay, easy, right? So what I did was, next time she came in, I put her on the table so she would back up and sit on the table. And then there's a trick to getting oversized, overweight, or weak people off a table without them straining. And once you know the trick, you'll always know the trick, and you'll never hurt yourself getting someone up or off of a table, even if they're this big around. Okay? And unfortunately, we live in America, which is full of fat people. Yeah, I'm fat shaming. Fat is still fat. It's not beautiful. It is a short life and a path to suffering and pain and early death. So I don't like to candy coat it, right? So even her, my 82-year-old grandma, I counseled her on her nutrition. Because, of course, that's why she was 300 pounds. 5'6", 300 pounds. That's fat. And I go, Grandma, I'm not going to tell you, her name was Mary. I go, Grandma, I called her Grandma. Grandma Mary, because she had like 13 grandchildren, 14 grandchildren. I go, Grandma, everybody else called her Grandma, so I'm going to call her Grandma. So I go, Grandma, and I took her hand, I got in there, and I looked her right in the face, and I said, I'm going to say this. It's not the first time you've heard this. Hopefully it won't be the last. I said, but the major reason why you have XYZ problems that are causing you so much pain and suffering is because you are fat. And you need to make efforts to fix it. And you can, and I can help you. And she just looked at me like, for a second, there was that, oh no, you didn't look. And her daughter, who was in the room, see, I never worked on her by myself, by the way. There were always at least 2 daughters in the room when I was working on Grandma. It's a thing I do, right? I don't work on women generally by myself, okay? And certainly not elders and grandmas. Never work on a grandma by myself, unless it's an emergency and we're on the side of the road somewhere, right? So her daughter actually got up out of her chair because I called Grandma fat cow. Because I'm Dr. J. I can't say one thing one time one way. I said, your problem is that you're fat. And then her eyes got really big and her daughter stood up. And then I went, obese. You're medically, clinically, morbidly obese. Which means you are at the highest risk of dying from anything, of anyone, on any health index that exists. Any medical index in the world gives obesity as the number one comorbidity to cause you to die from anything. And that was the standard for the WHO until COVID. That was the standard. They now don't want to talk about metabolic X syndrome. They don't want to talk about it because we want to promote vaccines as cure for everything. Genetic manipulation is cure for everything. So they don't talk about metabolic X anymore. But it's still a thing, trust me. And in the natural medicine world, it's still a thing. Okay? So I went in with all my, obese, fat, morbidly, clinically, rotund, obese, overweight, fat. And she's like, I get it. After a minute, she's like, I got it. I'm like, okay, I hope you do. And then I want to say something that might be controversial. And her daughter, man, I saw her getting in her hand in her purse. I thought, oh, she's got a gun or a knife in there. Like in about 1 minute, I'm going to say one thing too far. I'm going to cross a bridge too far, and she's going to jump up and stab me in the eye. Tackle me. Take me down. Ring, ring, ring. She had her hand. I didn't know she was reaching for a notebook. I thought it could be a gun or a knife. But anyway, because she was like, okay, if he's going to tell Grandma something helpful, I want to make sure that we make notes so that we can help her keep track of it. And I said, here's the thing. It's never too late. As long as there's breath in the body, there is hope. Hope remains eternal. And even if you just lose 1 pound, it'll change your life. How about that? I didn't go with this 20 pounds or 30 pounds or 10 pounds a month. I didn't start there. I looked her right in the eye and I said, if all we can do is get you to intentionally reduce your weight, girth and volume by 1 pound, just one, it might be enough to save your life. We're going to go for the best that you can get to, but I don't know what that is, and you don't know what that is, and anybody who says they know what that is, throw out a number, you need to lose 100 pounds. I'm telling you, they are ignorant. Don't do it. Don't subscribe to it. It's the concept of being in control. Using weight as a methodology to get in control of your life. It's a concept. That's where the greatest value is. Not that you're lighter and maybe you'll blow away in the wind. That's not it. All right? Now back to the table. So I'm not going to demonstrate a whole lot to start with because you already know what to do. But I'm going to show you a couple of things. Okay, make sure I'm in frame here. Yeah, I don't care. It's all right. All right, so this is a massage table. One thing you're going to notice right away is that it's set very low. Okay, so for me, it's set about the height of my knee. You see that? It's set about the height of my knee. Now, for her, I might actually if this table will go lower, I would say she should have the table lower, a little lower. Use your knee as a rough guide. You can be a little bit below it, you can be a little bit above it, but you want to be in the ballpark. All right, why is that? The reason why that dimension means that with very little or no effort, I can put my knee on the table, which I'm going to do a lot. I'm going to put my knee on the table a lot. Okay? And see how much effort is that for me to go like this. Okay? Not much. I don't even have to hike my hip. If you got to hike your hip to get your leg up on the table, it's too high. Okay? If you, every time you go to get on the table, almost fall over because it's so low, you might as well just use a mat. The average height of a massage table or platform in Thailand is the height of my Sheffield table over here. somewhere between 11 and 14 inches. So the average height of a therapeutic table or platform, treatment table, adjusting table, or whatever in Thailand, used in hospitals, okay, is somewhere between 11, 12 inches and 14, 17 inches, which is the adjustable height of that Sheffield table, which is adjustable. Okay, and then you compare that to the lodging table behind it, another traditional table, which we're going to drag out before this class is over, okay, which is also, again, a traditional version of an adjusting table. So this is modern, Sheffield table, brilliant, beautiful, very heavy duty, but look, it's completely portable. It packs up. Those 3 sets of legs collapse into themselves, and it goes boop, 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 and the whole damn thing is in this little suitcase, right? So it's more portable than this because this is bulkier and heavier, okay? But that's steel. This is a wooden frame, right? Then we look at the lodging table. That's mahogany. It's carved out of wood. And I'm off camera, but if you come over here, swing that camera around, Tyler. So if you swing by over here and push on the pad on this table, it's like this thick, okay? It's not very soft. It's just enough padding on this table to keep your bones from digging into the wood, okay? And there are some possible adjustments for it to use for different therapeutic applications. But that's a very traditional kind of table you would find in a clinic that is doing practices that are 100 years old or 200 years old. You can find those tables, they're 400 years old. You can find them. They're found all through Asia, Southeast Asia, China, and Thailand, even into Indonesia. You find these tables called, the name is Chinese, so it's mostly in the north of Thailand. Lodging, that's what that table's called. Sheffield, that's what that's called. Massage table. You can find these on eBay all day long for 150 bucks. Okay? You don't buy an $800 table. I have one. A furniture company made it for me. It's wider and longer than a standard massage table, and stronger because before I bought that big table, it's in the closet, before I bought that big table, I wrecked and destroyed about 5 massage tables that I paid like $300, $400, $500 for. I broke them. Why? Because they're made for inefficiency, and they're not made for you to be on the table at the same time as the client. Right. Okay? So if the table's not strong, you're going to break it, and it's okay. Okay? Either get a stronger table or use it slightly differently so you don't break it. You don't want to break it much or often. I get it. They're a little investment for a lot of people, okay? So I told you about the height. That gives it also lateral stability. The higher the table, the more flimsy the table is in lateral stability. In other words, less pressure makes it tip easier. And I don't want that. But now the next thing I'm going to say about this table is not my friend. It's not my buddy. It's not my child. It's not my pet. It's not my favoriteest favorite. It is a tool. It is a tool, okay? It is a tool just like a hammer is a tool. And because I do carpentry, I have about half a dozen hammers. Maybe I have a dozen hammers. I got framing hammers, I got tack hammers, I got ball peen hammers, do you understand? I got hammers that are just for doing body work on cars, and I never do body work on cars. I don't know why I have a hammer which is for doing sheet metal work on cars. But I got one. If you need one, I can go grab it for you. Okay? I have a sledgehammer. I don't just have a sledgehammer. I have 3 sledgehammers. I have a 2.5 pound sledgehammer. I have a 5 pound sledgehammer. And I have a 10 pound sledgehammer. With a wooden handle and one with a fiberglass handle and what? I do. I got a whole box full of hammers. And you don't even want to look in my box full of saws. In fact, I'm thinking about, I need to get those saws on eBay. I have about 100 antique saws. They're so antique, the wood handles rotted away long ago. Some of them still have handles, but some of the older ones, that there's a remnant, maybe a bolt that used to hold a handle, but the handles have been gone for ages, right? People make knives out of them, and they're still good steel, right? If the saw's good after 100 years, trust me, you can make a pocket knife out of it. It'll be fine, right? But it's a tool. And if I break a hammer, in fact, I have 2 broken hammers in my collection because I use them inappropriately, and I hammer with the claw instead of the head, and you're not supposed to do that. Everybody does. I use it sometimes in place of a trowel or a shovel that I'll dig with the hammer instead of using a trowel or a shovel or a pole, a digging stick or a pole, and I break them because I'll hit a rock. I broke a hammer not too long ago because I was digging in the garden and I smacked a rock and it broke a tine off the hammer. And I was like, oh, no, that was my favorite hammer. Well, then why were you digging with it? Why would you do that? Did I throw it away? No, because there are things you can do with a broken hammer you can't do with a good hammer. It's like a chisel with a long handle. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. Right? So you don't throw it away. Don't be ridiculous. Okay? But I didn't lose sleep over it. And if it was a hammer that I used frequently that I broke, if it was the handle I broke, I replaced the handle. And I have extra handles in my storage just in case. Because I've broken handle enough that the last time I broke a hammer, I didn't buy 1 handle, I bought 3. Why not? Just in case. It's the thing I do. I break handles. So I have extra handles for my post hole digger. I have extra handles for rakes. I have extra handles just in anticipation of Tyler using one of my tools and breaking it, which he's very fond of doing. For some reason, I'm not really sure what that's all about. I told him to put a pitchfork in the shed, and when I went to go get the pitchfork, it was in 2 pieces. I'm like, well, dude. He said, well, it just broke. I'm like, you know, things don't just break, right? You know, it's like a myth. It's not really true. Okay. I have another handle already. All right. So when I come to this table, I beat on it, I bang it, I'm rude to it, I kneel on it, I sit on it, I treat it as a tool. I don't let it dictate to me how to be. So one of the problems with conventional massage therapy, based therapies, is people do this. Stick their butt out and bend over the table so they don't touch it even. In fact, in the past, a lot of massage schools would dun you on your test if you touch any part of your body to the table when you're working on it. Touch any part, any part. And in Florida law, it was illegal to lean on the table or have your hip or your thigh or your butt or any other part of your body up against the table. And so for years, the massage schools who were licensed after that taught people to do this. And then they would end up with problems in their back and in their neck and in their shoulders and in their arms and wonder why. In context, see, here I go, sit on the table. All right, so we use a concept called torque in everything we do. T-O-R-Q-U-E, torque. Torque is how you intentionally use gravity to assist you in bringing those 5 things to bear on the client. Now, there's a couple of strategies. One, where does gravity live? Okay? Gravity lives on a line directly from the center of the sun to the center of the earth. Now, in yogic terms, we call that the golden thread. And it's a line that comes from the sun to the earth, and if you like, it's healthier for you to spend more time with your spine on that line than off that line. In martial arts, that is actually called center line. It's the line of gravity through you or through your opponent. It's called center line in martial arts. In yogic arts, it's called golden thread. Okay? Now, the way that you utilize this force that's on that vertical axis, that vertical line, is either A, you get on that line interfering with it and your client, which means you get on your client. Most efficient way to bring pressure to bear to another person's body is to get on top of them. So simple. It's not rocket science. So for example, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and one of the things that we were taught over and over and over and over again was the 10,000 ways to get on top of somebody. And they don't want you to. 10,000 ways to get on top of somebody when they don't want you to. Ta-da! Art of jiu-jitsu. Now that's half of it. So here's the other half. Or you get under them on the line and you position them over you on the line. And so now they are the gravity force, which you would think would be in their favor. However, what you do is you utilize that against them by putting pressure on the line under them, which causes them to distort and may cause them great pain and may cause them to want to call for their mommy. And I pull you on top of me to create pressure in you. But you're not directing it. See, that's the problem. It's not you getting on top of me. It's me pulling you on top of me. And as long as I'm directing, either I'm on top or you're on top of me, I'm good. And then we have the lateral angles, tangentials, okay, which is leverage off the line. So if I can't get something on the line, I can still create a fake line. In other words, I create a fake center line, and I use leverage to do that. And then that's called the science of locks. Science of locks is where I can't get your arm on the line, so I will create an imaginary line and then lock your arm on it. And the second I do that, you're going to call for mommy. You're going to call for mommy. And I can do it with your arm, your wrist, your shoulder, your leg, your hip, your ankle, your toe, your finger, your what, and I use leverage. So when we're on the table, here's the techniques. Taking what you've already known, so we've already done the level 1 on the mat, right? Take everything that you've already been practicing. Now I want you to think about it a different way. The client's on the table, and so are you. You got to get on top of them. You have to you got to get on the same line or recreate the closest semblance to what you were doing on the mat on the table without putting yourself or your client at risk. And there are some things that you can't do on the table like you do them on the mat because of the height difference, and it's, you really don't want to stand on the table, okay? But there's a way to bring pressure to bear on that body part by putting your body part on the table and then rolling the client on top of you. And then, in other words, we rotate the posture 180 degrees and it works on the table. So one posture works on the floor. You try to do that same, like a supported shoulder stand even, and you try to do that on the table, it's unwieldy. Okay? Change your, rotate 180 degrees or 90 degrees, whatever's appropriate for the technique, and all of a sudden the pressure is there and the alignment is there, and that's all you care about. And that's all you care about. Okay? Let me have, why don't you come and just be my model here just for 1 second. We're almost done, actually. Okay, here we go. Head up here, feet down there, face up. Face up. Okay, now one of the first lessons is getting the client on and off the table. Did you guys notice my technique? I asked him, get on the table. He pretty well knew what I meant. And then when I said face up and supine, because sometimes I use those terms, supine, said face up, he knew now he's on the table face up. Ta-da! How much sweat did I lose getting my client on the table? Listen, everybody repeat after me. I am the laziest, say it with feeling, the laziest person in this room. You can also substitute in this room for that I know. And if you're not the laziest person in the room, if you're not the laziest person you know, you're working too hard. Because you're efforting over efficiency. You're efforting over efficiency. I just made that word up. You're using effort over efficiency, which is inefficient. So the easiest way to get the client on the table is not to lift them up and put them on the table, unless they're unconscious. The easiest way to get the client on the table is just to politely ask them to get on the freaking table. And if you want them face up, say face up. If you want them face down, say face down. If you want them on their side, say turn on your side. And remember that. I see people struggling all the time to negotiate people around on the mat or table. And I'm like, just tell them what you want. It's not unprofessional. Efficiency is professional. Inefficiency is not. You with me?
Yes.
All right, so let's say right here, started with puja, right? Easy. I just stand comfortably. I don't have to be in some particular stance. Although I do use stances because that is an efficient way to move my body and apply pressure. But that's easy enough. But I could also do puja over here. I could do puja at the head. I could do puja at the feet. In the north of Thailand, people prefer to do puja at the feet. In the south of Thailand, they prefer the stomach. In Malaysia, for some reason, they prefer the head. So going from north to south, you go from north to south on the body. It's kind of funny. And there's regional variations. They all say they have a reason to do that, and it's the best reason. Okay? But I think it's Hatfield and McCoy. Hatfield and McCoy. You know? And why is that? What I mean by that? That famous feud between the Hatfields and the McCoys in West Virginia was because people on one side of a hill didn't like people on the other side of a hill. And that the main difference between them was geographic. Those people on that side of the hill are no damn good. They said to each other, right? And so we see that even in Oriental medicine, especially in Thai medicine. Okay, but look here, see? Now for the warm-up, just as an idea, get in here. See my center of gravity? See, I can still just shift my weight to create pressure. My arms are straight, and at no time do my elbows leave my arms, right? So I don't have to bend my arm to apply pressure. What is this? This is gravity. What is this? This is gravity. Palm walk up, still gravity, palm circles. Now, up here, I can project myself. Even all the way up, I can let my back leg come up, and now I'm completely on the table. That's perfectly acceptable. But also, it would be perfectly acceptable to come all the way up to here, and then palm circle and work, and then I'm really stable here from all the way on the table. But I don't have to be. I just find what gives me the most feeling of stability. Right? So I open the wind and start back, and then when I get to the knees, I move back and get my foot down, here, ta-ta-ta-ta, and here I go. I'm on the feet. Okay? So that is a model of efficiency. And it's actually easy for me to do that, as easy as on the mat. Right? All right, then I'm going to palm press, for example, on the leg. Okay, so I want to turn it in. Why? Because I'm working on the lateral leg. Now, if I did this, I'm bent over. So in other words, this is not good, right? Now I'm doing that thing the massage people do, okay? So what is the thing that I do that is not what the massage people do? Well, we have different stances. So we have a front stance, back stance, horse stance, etc. And these are also yoga postures. But when I want to drop my center of gravity, because I don't want to bend my arms and I don't want to bend over more than I have to, okay? So I'm going to get my center of gravity right up into the table, and the way I'm going to do that, watch what I do, and see how I lowered my center of gravity by going into a front stance. And also, look where my spine is. See? Look where my pelvis is. So I can still rock, you see, to create pressure. And if you notice, at no time do my arms bend to create pressure. And so that means there's no pushing. That's what that means. So I just step out. Now, could I go this way and do it? Yes. Yes, I could. It really doesn't matter which leg is the front leg, but the front foot is pointing this way, the way the knee is going. And right here, I'm not under stress. My back foot is flat, my heel is down, and I'm literally, my pelvis is forward into the table. And this is a really strong and stable place. And if I want to create pressure, you see how easy how I just rock? Mm-hmm. And there's pressure. And there's no pushing. See, that arm never bends. So essentially, it's another variation of sitting on the client, which is great efficiency. Standing, walking, or sitting, perching, leaning, or propping on the client is the most efficient way to bring pressure to bear. Not grabbing, squeezing, or doing push-ups 1,000 times during a session. So if I were to separate this out a little bit, then it would look like this, like Warrior One. Okay, so the front foot is one way, back foot is turned out to the side, the front knee is over the foot, and it's the basis for a triangle pose, okay, or Warrior One. But we just call it simply, it's a front stance. All martial arts have a front stance. And for good reason. There's a reason. And it's either front or back, right? In Bruce Lee's system, he preferred the back alignment, which he called small phasic bent knee stance, which was the back knee is bent, but the front foot is drawn back. More weight on the back leg than the front foot. Why? So you can kick without prep. So you can kick without telegraph. So he preferred to shift the weight toward the back foot. Okay? For most therapeutic applications on the table, we actually want more weight toward the front foot. So that makes it a classic front stance. Okay? And then you can do that all the way around all the time. And then if I'm going to do something like Yanaka, you say, well, wait a minute, how am I going to do Yanaka? Where am I going to sit? If I go to sit here to do Yanaka, I'm going to fall off the table. Wrong. Wrong. No, you move this foot over. Oh, look how hard that was. Right? Move the leg over. See this? Just so happens it's big enough for me. Right? And then I'm just going to pick the leg up, articulate it out, let it hang off. See, again, does it matter that he now has a body part that's not even on the table, that's hanging off the table? Remember, I said one of the benefits of using the table is gravity is your ally, is using gravity as a way to create pressure. Okay, so just going into this position, he's got pressure on this line, right? Bling, 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 bling. Okay, and now I bring my inside foot up and push. You see? So this is easy, right? And then fold it. Don't you help? Fold it in. Did you guys catch that? And just always protect the knee when you straighten the leg. Unless you're doing a check on the joint to make sure it's in alignment. But if that's not exactly what you're doing, protect the knee. Okay, now watch this. Let's see, how do I'll do this from this side. I'm going to help him sit up. So I'll show you a trick. Okay? So far, so good? All right, so I'm going to come over here and just bring the legs right to the edge, hanging off a little bit. I'm going to come under here, get my hand under his neck. I'm in a nice, strong stance, so I'm not, going to have any pressure on my back. And what I do is pull this leg and lift at the same time. And he comes into the vertical. And now let him sit there for a second to get some equilibrium. Here, grab my arm. It's
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's that long part above the wrist.
Oh.
And step forward and stand up. So I hang on to him until I feel is stable. Mm-hmm. I don't care who they are. Because it's changing blood pressure equilibrium when you go from laying down to standing. Right. Anybody can be lightheaded. And if he comes up too fast and takes a step, the next step could be a nosedive. Right? Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. All right, any questions? Doesn't have to be a question, thought, observation, anything else?
I noticed in the video you don't.
Stephanie, go get Julie.
Is there any like in the center? Is the center of the table the weakest point?
Yes.
I noticed that
Don't bounce on the center of the table.
So no,
they're not made for it.
The tip,
Oh yes. Just don't bounce. Yeah. In fact, you can look up the weight limit for tables. Some of them are like 300 pounds, some of them are 400 pounds, some of them are 600 pounds. Tends to be the more expensive ones have a higher weight limit. Okay? And it's because, you weigh 200 pounds and your client weighs 300 pounds. If you get both of you on the table for a second at the same time, that's 500 pounds static weight. And then if you apply pressure with any ballistic motion, it multiplies that and you'll break the table right in half. Mm-hmm. So don't do that. It's the bounce is the problem. Yeah. Static weight, the tables will hold more. But if you bounce, ballistic motion, bounce. When you put pressure, punchy, bouncy, hoppy, you can break the tables easy. They're not made for it. It's an engineering thing. Okay? That's why in Thailand they prefer static tables like this, or even like the lodging table or big platforms that are raised off the ground, because you can jump up and down on them and you can't break them.
What do you mean by static?
See, this has a weight limit. Mm-hmm. That little table right there, that Sheffield table, will hold 3 times the weight this table will hold. Because it's a steel frame. Yeah. Right? And look, 3 sets of legs, not 2. Mm-hmm. And it's got a set of legs right in the middle where the heavy part is, right? And then lodging table is static. See, solid legs, solid foundation, like a table. Right? Not meant to be portable, though it's not heavy. You can, and you pull the center pole up and you can move it easy. Okay? But again, it'll hold more weight than this will. Right? Okay. Julie, so we're done. Do you have anything?
Always find joy in the smallest of things. That is what we found in you. Oh, 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 you are joy. Never give up when the going gets rough. Hope is everything you need. Oh, 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 you are hope. Oh, 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 you are hope. Don't forget you're not alone. The Holy Spirit wants to guide you.